The drama surrounding the Indiana Fever has taken a turn no one saw coming, and at the center of it all stands head coach Stephanie White, whose words have now ignited a firestorm that could redefine the future of this franchise. It started quietly, almost innocently, during what was supposed to be a reflective postseason interview. But when White described Caitlin Clark's injury as a blessing in disguise, and then declared that re-signing Kelsey Mitchell, not Clark, was the Fever's #1 priority, everything changed. What might have been brushed off as an awkward phrasing has instead turned into one of the most explosive coaching controversies in WNBA history. The reaction inside the organization was immediate and visceral. Members of the Fever's front office, particularly those aligned with ownership, were reportedly stunned. After all, this was not just a random team. This was Caitlin Clark's team. The rookie who transformed Indiana from an afterthought into the epicenter of women's basketball. The player who sold out arenas, brought in record-breaking television numbers, and single-handedly turned the WNBA into a mainstream conversation. And yet, here was her own coach, seemingly downplaying her importance, even suggesting the team functioned better without her. The organization had spent the entire season building a global marketing campaign around their superstar. Clark's face was on every poster, her highlights were on every broadcast, and her name was the reason corporate sponsors lined up to invest in the Fever brand. So when White implied the team's true priority was someone else, like Kelsey Mitchell, it didn't just undermine the front office. It questioned the entire direction of the franchise. Let's be clear, no one is denying Kelsey Mitchell's importance. She's a talented scorer, a respected veteran, and a cornerstone of the team's rebuilding years. But Caitlin Clark is a once-in-a-generation player, the kind who shifts not just games, but economies. When the Fever landed the #1 overall pick to draft her, it wasn't luck. It was destiny. It was the kind of break that changes everything. The moment Clark arrived in Indiana, the old blueprint was gone. The team's identity, its culture, even its national relevance, all of it revolved around her. And everyone in the building knew it. Everyone, apparently, except Stephanie White. Insiders have long whispered that the relationship between White and Clark was professional but distant. White preferred structure, set plays, deliberate tempo control. Clark, on the other hand, thrives on freedom, improvisation, pace, creativity. The clash in styles was inevitable, but no one expected it to turn into an outright philosophical war. When White publicly elevated Mitchell over Clark, it confirmed what many had suspected for months, that the head coach saw the Fever not as a team led by a prodigy, but as a collective that had to protect its veterans from her shadow. Behind closed doors, the fallout was severe. According to team insiders, the Simon family, owners of the Fever and the Indiana Pacers, took White's comments as a direct challenge to their long-term investment. They reportedly questioned her loyalty and whether she truly understood the magnitude of what Clark represented. The conversation quickly shifted from basketball to business. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player, she's a financial engine. Every game she plays means more tickets sold, more jerseys bought, and more sponsors signed. For a franchise that had struggled for relevance for nearly a decade, Clark was their golden ticket. So when the head coach publicly sidelined that momentum, it wasn't just a bad look, it was a strategic disaster. Inside the locker room, the divide grew wider. Some players, particularly veterans who had been with the team before Clark's arrival, quietly applauded White's loyalty to Mitchell. They felt that Clark's fame had overshadowed years of hard work. But younger players and those more in tune with the business side of the sport saw it differently. To them, White's comments felt outdated, almost resentful, like she was refusing to accept that women's basketball had changed. The game wasn't the same as it was 8 years ago. The fans weren't just showing up for wins anymore, they were showing up for Caitlin Clark. Meanwhile, Clark herself stayed silent. No interviews, no reactions, no cryptic social media posts, just focus. That silence, however, spoke volumes. It wasn't the silence of indifference, it was the silence of someone who knew the storm was coming. And come it did. Within hours, sports talk shows, analysts, and fans across the country were dissecting every word of Stephanie White's interview. Was she undermining her star player? Was jealousy creeping into the locker room? Or was this a coach trying to assert authority in a team suddenly consumed by celebrity? Public sentiment wasn't kind. Hashtags like FireWhite and Build Around Caitlin began trending across social platforms. Even neutral sports outlets criticized the coach for what they called tone-deaf leadership. To the fans, it wasn't complicated. You don't publicly diminish the best player your franchise has ever had. Especially not when that player has elevated your team, your league, and your career. Inside the Fever's front office, crisis meetings were reportedly held within hours. PR teams scrambled to contain the fallout, crafting statements and internal talking points that could soften the blow. But the damage had already been done. Sponsors began asking questions. Season ticket holders voiced frustration. And while the organization hasn't made any public disciplinary decisions yet, multiple insiders believe that White's future is now under serious review. Some executives want her gone before the start of the next season, replaced by someone who can align with the franchise's modern vision, someone who understands that building around Clark isn't just good basketball, it's good business. For now, though, the Fever find themselves in limbo. Stephanie White remains the head coach, but her authority has been shaken. The locker room feels fractured. The ownership is furious. And Caitlin Clark, the player who was supposed to symbolize the Fever's rebirth, now finds herself at the center of a power struggle that could define her early WNBA career. In the end, this controversy isn't just about one quote. It's about a culture clash. The old guard versus the new era. Loyalty to the past versus belief in the future. Stephanie White's words might have been unintentional, but their impact was seismic. Because in today's WNBA, where players like Caitlin Clark are redefining what's possible, resistance doesn't just look stubborn, it looks self-destructive. The Fever are standing at a crossroads. Will they cling to the remnants of a team built on nostalgia, or will they embrace the undeniable force that Caitlin Clark represents? Will Stephanie White adapt, or will she become another casualty of a rapidly changing league? One thing's certain, the clock is ticking. The eyes of the sports world are watching, and whatever the Fever decide next will determine whether they rise into a new dynasty, or collapse under the weight of their own pride. But what do you think? Did Stephanie White simply misspeak, or did she expose how she really feels about Caitlin Clark's growing influence? Should the Fever keep faith in their coach, or make a bold move to protect the future of the franchise? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more in-depth breakdowns of sports drama and power struggles just like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on this evolving WNBA saga.